Welcome to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'm Bernie Flowers, one of Uncle Sam's wayward children, and I believe that our country's best days are still in front of us. But those best days, if they are to come, we need to change the direction of the country right now before it's too late. I intend to talk about important topics every week in hopes of helping to improve our country and our way of life. We ask that you please like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow our channel and provide a voice to America's forgotten middle class. So now, let's get started.
Welcome to episode number 69. My guests are my friends, Ms. Delores Reyes and Ms. Nicole Bennett, both Black Republican women. Can you imagine that? I found two Black Republican women. Ms. Delores Reyes is an entrepreneur, a landlord, and an international host. She's a real estate investor and a Donald Trump supporter. She has been elected an official in the Montgomery County Republican Party Central Committee for over 10 years. Delores was a candidate on the Republican ticket in 2016, running for the office of Register of Wills. She's planning to run for county council in Montgomery County very soon. Ms. Nicole Bennett is a national director with the Black Conservative Federation, a member of Project 21 of the National Centers, and the president of the Conservatives for Maryland Political Action Committee. She served as a member and then chairman of the Charles County Republican Central Committee. She's also chairman of the Maryland Black Republican Council. And finally, she's a two-term first vice chairman of the MDGOP. She works as a healthcare executive and leads a national organization of healthcare leaders. So without any further ado, ladies, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine.
Outstanding.
Awesome.
Outstanding. Let's talk about Kamala Harris. Would you guys mind?
Let's go.
Well, there's some things about her that are kind of unnerving. And I know there's a lot of things about her in the Black community that just seem kind of weird. Like, for example, the fact that she's not Black. Her father is Bahamian and her mother is East Indian. And, without any further ado, I'm just going to ask you guys what you think about that. Delores, would you like to go first?
Well, okay, I can go first. Throughout time, African American people are just about everything. We're a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. She did go to Howard University. Her father was a Jamaican and he was a half Black man. So I'm going to go ahead and say that she has Black tidings. Is that a good word? Did I make that word up? She had something Black about her. And we all know that if you even have, what was the equation? 1/8?
One drop.
One drop of Black. Then guess what? You're Black. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that on to Nicole because I do think that she has Black leanings and she has that one drop.
Nicole, how do you feel about all that?
So, Black leanings, I wouldn't give her that much. I'm just not. When you take a look at who she associates with, how she interacts with the culture, like Kendrick said, she ain't like us. I mean, she's just not. With all of that said, it doesn't really matter to me how she identifies. My bigger problem with Ms. Harris is her politics. There are a lot of people who attend HBCUs. I'm a product of an HBCU who are not Black. So going to Howard doesn't necessarily earn you a Black card, probably some student loan debt, but definitely not a Black card. But if she insists, welcome to the team, sis. Welcome to the team.
Okay. All right. Well said, ladies. I have another question for you. She started her career by having an affair with a married man that happened to be San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, but I want to know how you feel about it as Black women.
I'm appalled by it. She was 29 and he was 60. he left his Black wife for this woman. I think she's got some sort of soul background, and I'm not very happy with her background. And that is not that's a bad thing to me. And I think that she's probably had a lot of little tat-a-tats and this and that and really bad encounters. I just think that is her MO. I think she's got a bad encounter now, trying to be president of the United States. What say you?
Well, Nicole.
I agree. Where do we start? It's a terrible ball to unwind. But what I can say is when you see these May-December romances politically, especially within our community, we call it the come up. She's trying to come up. And there's no better, no quicker, faster way to come up than earning it. The best way to get to the top. But we all know there are alternative ways to get there. I don't discount her education. I think she's a well-educated person. I don't discount how hard she's worked in this lifetime. I think she's probably worked pretty hard, but I think she did herself a disservice by degrading herself in that relationship and from the rumor mill, several other relationships. It makes me wonder about her decision-making process.
Yeah.
When we talk about politics, it's nothing personal. I mean, she could be pink with yellow stripes and actively dating a giraffe. None of my business. But when it comes to making decisions, what does that look like? What does that process, that pros and cons kind of thing look like inside of a woman's head who's willing to risk it all to become a DA in California?
Well, in my view, not only, I think her choices, the way she makes decisions and the choices that she makes are also bad. I think that she would do that to our country. I think that she's not capable of making organized, realistic choices. I think she has bad judgment. I think that she's a horrible president. I think that she, the first time around, flunked the law exam. I think that she used Willie Brown in order to move herself forward.
The come up. Yeah, the come up.
To me,
I think there's a lot to be said, though, for women. One of my favorite movies of all times is a movie called All About Eve. It's a black and white movie. If you've got 2 hours to waste, it's the best thing you ever watch. It's got a little something for everybody. But in this movie, there is an ingenue that comes onto the scene, and she's beautiful and maybe not the brightest person you've ever want to meet, but she's got a little bit of a chops, and she sets her sight on the most powerful man that she can find, and uses that relationship to eventually catapult herself to the front of the line. Well, the problem is once you get to the front of the line, the people who've earned their way there are waiting. And that's what we saw during the primary debates last cycle when she was, quote unquote, running for president then. What we saw then is Democrats who've worked their way up to the top going, girl, this is not your turn, have a seat. The adults are talking. And that hasn't changed. When we talk about her policy points, we're going to have a hard time doing that because she doesn't have any. She's not made an intelligent decision in 4 years. We're still waiting. We're still waiting.
Slick Willie. Slick Willie. A person that has some things going for it a little bit, like 1/4 or something, then they choose the other part to do whatever they have to do in order to get what they want. And I think that she fits the Slick Willie profile just right. Wow. And we have to be very, very careful because Slick Willie is Slick Willie. They will do anything, say anything, buy anything. They will do whatever is necessary for them to win. And we cannot underestimate her and her team.
Wow. Agreed. Well, Joe Biden didn't. Look what happened to him. He woke up and found out that he wasn't running for president again. I think it was a very, very rough day for Joe when they had to explain to him that, there was a coup and you're no longer the guy, but we're going to let you finish out. You're not good enough to run. You're not bright enough to run, and we don't trust you, but you can stay here. And we'll fly your wife to Paris to watch the Olympics too. We'll throw you a bone, but you may not run again.
And we'll let Hunter Biden go to rehab, and you can go sit on the beach in Delaware.
Right.
Ladies, since you brought this up, how can Joe Biden not be bright and strong enough to run for president, but he's also strong enough and bright enough to be our president for the next 6 months?
I'm speechless. I understand it, and let me tell you where I understand where the rubber meets the road. And please chime in if you don't agree, or whatever the case may be, or if you agree, whatever. If he steps down as president, that makes her president. That makes her have all of the nuances that goes with president. Access to information, access to heads of state, access to money, access to commerce, access to government, access to the military, access to everything. Oh, heck no, we cannot just let her, here you go, and give it to her. No way, Jose. That will not work. Keep her down in the background for as long as we possibly can, because if she wins, we're going to have a bumpy ride.
Wow.
No,
we've already had a bumpy ride with her in the second chair. I think, and again, just my personal beliefs is the Democrats do not want her to have a record as president. They don't want her to have host heads of state where she's going to have to not read a teleprompter, but actually be intelligent, witty, and charming on the global stage without prompting. There's not going to be an Easter bunny that's going to run out and get her when she puts both of her feet in her mouth, right? The forgiveness that the American people, the grace that the American people have shown Joe Biden is simply because I don't think there's one American family that hasn't been touched by dementia or Alzheimer's. And we see it very clearly. Grandpa Joe, Sleepy Joe, Sloppy Joe, whatever Joe we're having today. But I think America as a nation can agree that it's time for people to have a seat as a people.
You guys got me here. I'm supposed to be a journalist, and you got me over here cracking up.
Well, he's had his turn. And listen, there has been so much made about him remaining in office, not bright enough to run, but remaining in office, and why we're not discussing the 25th Amendment and why this is not a thing. I think both sides of the aisle can agree that nobody wants her to be president. No. Nobody wants that smoke. And it's not, again, it has nothing to do with who she is as a person, race-wise, gender-wise. It doesn't have that. We're talking about horsepower here. What has she done that would lead any of us to believe that she can fulfill this role? 4 years vice president. She's only been to 19 countries, according to whitehouse.gov. Now I'm using their own data. 19 countries. Yeah. I've not heard, and I'm fairly politically, plugged in. I've not heard of anything that she's said or done with any foreign dignitary that advanced the American cause. Not one thing. Not one thing.
Well, what about the idea that she was appointed border czar? Now, I know this to be true because I was at DHS when it happened, but she never stepped foot at that southwest border.
I'm more qualified than she is.
Let me tell you, I spent a week last June at the border. I had a friend that was running for Congress, and we went down and we took some video and made some commercial things. And we were in El Paso, we went to the Rio Grande, and then over in New Mexico. And why that's important, 2 days before we arrived in New Mexico, a mother and a child died in the desert. And why that's significant, because people die in the desert all the time. Why that's significant is that they have these rescue stations in the desert, with a little bit of water and a place to get out of the sun. What the cartels have done is they've destroyed those stations, because the only way you're going to come across that desert is if you pay me, right? If your family makes sure that I have what I'm supposed to have from your family in order to get you across. It was during the time that she was supposed to be visiting the border. It's during the time when we had what El Paso called the Great Invasion, and we had people laying on the sidewalks downtown El Paso, changing baby diapers. The one woman approached our truck to sell me a 5-year-old.
What?
Yes. She says,
You mean
$5.
take that off?
Trying to give She's trying to give it to me for $5. And I'm like, So I asked the little girl, and she goes, okay, $2. So I slid her a 20 because at this point, I shudder to think who else she's trying to pawn this child off on. It was horrific. We saw grown men, the middle of the day, open air drug deals. I have the pictures to prove it. When we were standing in front of the part that is guarded by the fence, the children would come to the fence and stick their arms through the bars and say, Ayúdame, help me. And, I'm running over with Capri Suns and everything else because, I'm that girl. And on the other side of the fence, you see the federales come on the big horses with the whips, and they're whipping the children back away from the fence. These are things that she should have seen. But what I understand is whenever someone who is elected, especially a senator, vice president or president, visits the border, they clean all of that up.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want it clean. I want them to see what I saw. I want her to have that heartbreaking moment that I had with this woman physically pushing this child toward our truck. This is she's 5. Can you imagine what this child has already lived through? Mm-hmm. It is outrageous to me that she's not taking the time to put on a baseball hat, lace up her sneakers and go on down there and see what's really going on. That would impress me. But instead of hanging out in Hawaii with Oprah, she should have been about her job. A mother and daughter dead, and that blood's on her hands.
Well, she's not. She's superficial. She's all show. That's really, they're not there to actually do work or save people or any of those things. That is not the objective. The objective is just to say hi and go home. There you go. They have no intent of helping those persons who are on that border. And you saw it for yourself.
And this person's a heartbeat away from the presidency.
Absolutely. God help us all. Well, God save the queen. That's all I know. Really.
I got another question for you both. You guys, I'm having a fun time doing this. I need to stay out of this. I need to be objective. But I'm not going to do that. Anyway, in California, when she was the attorney general, she imprisoned over 2,000 blacks for simple marijuana possession. And I remember her being on the Charlemagne the God program, laughing about smoking weed. How do you guys feel about that?
It's pretty much indicative of who she is as a person. Politically, she's very much a chameleon. And I think that's why she was doing so poorly the first time that she ran for president in the primary season, is because if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, right? And that's what she does. When she's with Shah the God, she's a whole different person. When she's standing with her quote unquote peers at the federal level, she's a completely different person. I mean, this woman has broken up more Black homes than any elected official in recent times. When you take a look at those numbers of incarceration in California during her time, we're talking about simple weed possessions. And I'm not judging her based on today's standards, but she wanted the max. She was after these guys.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, you got a job, a wife, kids, it didn't make a difference. But here in the same, 4 or 5, 10 years later, she's talking about defunding the police because, Black people are being incarcerated at a different rate than whites. Right. Let's take a look at your record. 422 men, Black men, per 100,000 men. So her record compared to whites, which was like a 314, that's a big disparity. That's huge. And it wasn't only Black men, Black women too, and Latina women.
Yeah.
We didn't see the chance with this woman. So when she talks about defunding the police and people say, oh, well, that's so very liberal. When you listen to that, they're not defunding the police in Chevy Chase. Oh. They're not defunding the police in Potomac. Please believe they're going to defund them in Southeast. They're going to defund them where minority communities need them the most. We need policing agencies. We don't need Gestapo type police. Make no mistake. We don't want anybody getting knocked in the head. But if someone breaks in my home, I don't want somebody to come by 3 hours later to take a report. That's not what we're looking for here. So she has to decide. The bad thing about Kamala is that deciding is not her strong suit. The good thing about Kamala is if you sell her the Brooklyn Bridge, there's a 100% chance she'll drive across it. Save us all a bunch of money. We won't ever have to worry about her being president. This woman will fall for anything. Will fall for anything.
Well, I have a take on it similar to yours, but just a little bit different. At one time, when she was a prosecutor, she wanted all these people, black males, to go to jail, etc. And now she's with a team of people who allow people of color, black, Latino, whatever, go into the CVS and just take stuff off the shelf and walk out. They're shooting and killing each other by the droves in Ward 7 and 8 and in every single major city. I own houses in Philadelphia, and I'm here in Baltimore. They're shooting each other and killing each other like you would not believe. It is just totally sad. How does she get from wanting them to go to jail for marijuana and doesn't want to do anything to save the inner city? It's just like the girl in New York said during the convention, during the Republican convention. She said, "You let us down." They have let the inner city, the persons who need the help the most, they have totally let them down. They had no interest in trying to lift them up. They're actually letting illegal aliens have more housing than they do. They get more food stamps. They get money. They get everything. And the persons who've been here since the beginning of the United States of America, they don't get crapolas. And this
Do you know what's an interesting segue is what's going on in Springfield, Ohio right now. Springfield is a smaller community. It's a little bit west of Columbus, Ohio, and it's got about 60,000 residents. Heart country, people call it the Rust Belt, I call it Bible Belt. Hardworking families. They have 20,000 Haitians that have been, quote unquote, resettled in Springfield. That's more than 1/3 of their population. They have an emergency housing crisis. And the Haitians aren't going to do well in the heartland in the wintertime. No. The Haitians I know are wonderful people. They're industrious, hardworking people. It is a part of my genetic makeup. But I will tell you one thing that they don't do well is snow. They don't do ice well. They don't do freezing temperatures well. When we think about resettling, he used what USCIS calls the parole program. Now, this program is supposed to be used for extreme humanitarian, earthquake, flood, and typhoon, like serious things to resettle people temporarily until we can get them, built up and back to their area. But this has become a resettlement type of administration. They've dropped Ukrainians here on the eastern shore of Maryland. They've dropped people in places where they don't belong. It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Well,
ladies, can I interrupt just a second?
Please do.
I just lost your video.
You lost my video?
Yes, I
How about
did.
my voice?
I think your voice is good.
Good. My voice is good and my face is not there, but I'm going to try to bring that back right now. But let me just interject something, even though you can't see my face. Well, Ukrainians are actually in Baltimore, have a whole section. As a person who's in real estate investing, we were asking certain people, where is everything going? And they said, oh, this is the board for Ukrainians. We're like, oh, that's interesting. They have a whole section for them. I don't understand it. They are actually displacing inner city African Americans or Black people and giving those people their space.
Yeah.
They're doing it with your school system. They're doing it with their housing. They're doing it with their jobs. They are just totally displacing certain people, and rank and file white.
Yes.
Go to a union center and see who's there.
Do you know what's interesting is, although these people are being displaced, although some of their schools are being used for emergency housing and their kids are being uprooted and blended into schools and neighborhoods and communities that they don't know or understand, although all of that is happening, they are resting assured that that voting block is going to come through for them in November.
We cannot let them sit there and have blinders on their eyes. The reason why we're having the Zoom show, the reason why you've got your organization, your PAC, and I'm trying to do mine, is because they have got to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
They have got to take the blinders off of their eyes and see exactly what's going on with them. It's time for them to come home to the Republican Party, the one that set them free. This is our moment. They need to be educated. They need to see the reality where the rubber meets the road. They've been let down.
They've been
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Can I ask a question? You know, and I'm having fun with this, but bottom line, why do Black women support this lady?
To a large degree, the Black women who are supportive of her are supportive of her for a myriad of other reasons, especially when you look at how Democrats progress in the party, right? It's very different than how people progress in the Republican Party, but attaching yourself to someone who has quote unquote crossed is important. And I don't think for 1 second, in fact, I was at a party on Friday night with some ladies who belong to Divine Nine sororities. And they got a lot of calls like I did. They got emails like I did. They got text messages like I did. Vote, vote, vote for Kamala. Send $25, that whole thing. And these ladies would not. They would not. They looked at her record and said, she's not done much for us, and I don't think she'll do anything in the future. I just paid $79 to fill up my car with gas. I'm not going to vote that way. But I do think that there's a subset of Black women who see this as a history-making moment for the culture, and I think that's unfortunate.
I was saying that I did a lot of research on KFF, which is the Kaiser Foundation people, did a total research on Black women and voting and Black people and vote. It was quite interesting. Black women appear 46 and over to be very, very, very loyal to the Democratic Party. Those who are 46 and under, they feel that they have not gotten their just due. They are also disgruntled, and a lot of them are saying in the foundation that they are going to not vote at all, and they're looking at voting in another direction. This is new.
Well, we have been suggesting that to our Democrat counterparts. I was fortunate enough to go to the campaign school at Yale, which is 75 women picked from around the world to study politics there, most of them Democrat. And my friends from that experience have all said, I might sit this one out. This may not be, this might not be the cycle. And I think it all stems from something that I wish we would go back to as a country. We have to be good Americans first. We can be super partisan last. If we've not learned anything from her being a trusted partner to this Biden administration, is that they have no idea what they're doing. The world is at war. China is feeling emboldened. Iran has become a problem again after we, bombed them back to the dark ages. We're in a situation now where the world is not a safe place, and especially not safe if you were the privilege of being born under those stars and stripes. This is for the first time in my life. The first time I traveled abroad, we went to Europe in high school. You put a bunch of high schoolers from America on a double-decker bus and you whip around Europe so fast you don't remember anything. That tour, right? But we were safe. We had no fear that anything would happen to us. You travel abroad now, and what you find is yourself thinking, I don't know. I don't know if this is worth it. I would love to go to Croatia. Nope, not doing it.
But
Can't risk it.
let me interject something. I lived in Europe for almost a year. I went to school in France at the Alliance Française, and I traveled all over Europe. I didn't want to come back to the United States. I loved it so much better than here. My parents had to talk me off the ledge so that I wasn't going to come home. I wasn't coming back to the United States. And now I have people that I know who go there and say, oh my God, it's really as bad as it is here or worse.
Yeah, it's difficult.
That's my experience.
Well,
I had a wonderful time there. I loved being there. I went to Belgium, I went to Italy, I went to France, I went to Switzerland. I mean, I was all over the place for almost a year. And but it's not safe like that now. And I think our country is like this too. It's fearful. I'm fearful.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
Yes, you may.
Because you guys brought up a touchy subject for me.
Okay.
We just had the Olympics, and this does equate to Miss Harris. But on the opening ceremony of the Olympics on Friday night, there was a show of drag queens, and they were mocking the Lord's Supper picture of Jesus. And I equate all this to the weakness of our administration. But rather than that, were you guys aware of this?
Not.
Absolutely.
Can you, what do you think about that? I just got to bring this up.
I have 3 points that I've made about this publicly before, and I'll say it again. Number one, if we could keep our politics out of sports, that would be really great.
Oh, yeah.
The Olympics, the participants have trained their whole lives. They're the creme de la creme. And for their nations to feel some kind of way about the opening ceremony, it diminishes how they feel about winning. There's nothing like watching young people wrap themselves up in the stars and stripes that say, let's go USA. It is so heartwarming. And those are images that we can show to our children and say, look, we come from a great nation. If you work real hard, you can be great too. It's a moment, right? Yeah. But what we had instead at this opening ceremony was a lot of international global politics that said, look at these drag queens and other various alternative people, but we're going to put them in a position that stabs at the heart of Christianity. Because Christianity is the only religion that you could mock that way.
Oh, yeah.
Had there been one person dressed like Muhammad, one Allah Akbar, one, they would have burnt that place to the ground.
Sure
they would have burned it to the ground. There's something about having weak leadership here in this nation that reverberates around the world. And that's what we're seeing. What we're seeing is bad actors feel emboldened because there is no strength here in the United States. I am incredibly pro-woman. I am incredibly pro-Black woman. My people, literally my tribe. But we have to look at it from an honest perspective. As a nation, does she have what it takes to talk someone off the ledge? To call up Putin and say, you know what, I wish you would. If I had 3 wishes, it would be your punk blankety blank would. Does she have that card? She does not. She's giggling like a hyena at every state dinner. That does not say strength. It does not say power. We have to get back to that. That what happened in France, there should have been an immediate response from the White House that called out everybody who participated. But that say to our athletes and athletes all around the world, their politics should not reflect on how hard you've worked to get to this moment. And we're going to push past it.
Okay.
Instead,
if we don't do everything humanly possible to win this election, we are going to be in deep guacamoles. That will not change. It'll get worse. I don't know how to impress upon people that I know and meet, persons who are Democrats, people who are my sorority sisters who are like, vote for her. They just don't know what that really means. They don't see the handwriting on the wall like we see. Our nation has totally changed in 4 years. We are so behind. We are so showing our weakness, letting Palestinian people go and stamp on our flag and paint the statues red downtown Washington. This is not America. We need to get back to our family values, get back to Jesus, get back to some religious foundation, have moral principle. This is out of shape. This is not good. And I don't know what else we can do but have Donald Trump as our president. We've got to do this. This is important. At the end of the day, where the rubber meets the road, we have got to win this. We have got to win. And they're going to cheat. They're going to do anything and everything. They're even tried, just like they even tried to kill Donald Trump. They'll do anything. And we have to be prepared. This is not some joke. This is real.
Ladies, I got one last question for you.
Okay.
Because I'm enjoying this conversation, and we're going to have to definitely do this again.
Oh, great.
But I'm taking up so much of your time. Just recently, there was a Zoom conference with thousands of people on it. It was called Karens for Kamala.
Oh, Lord.
And these are all white women, liberal white women who support Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And to tell you the truth, from my perspective, they have the most to lose. Why would they be so supportive of someone like her who is not for law and order and doesn't seem to be for the American way of life? Why do these women feel so akin to her?
Well, they got a lot in common.
Yeah.
They have a ton of things in common. Defunding the police doesn't affect their communities. Taking away the state's right to decide women's reproductive health in their state doesn't affect them at all. I mean, these are the same white women that are walking around, espousing abortion this, abortion that. They're not getting no abortions. That affects communities that has nothing to do with them. So for them, this is a moment. We didn't get Hillary, but we'll get the next best thing. And if she makes mistakes, we'll just chalk that up to her being, a little sloop-footed. There's going to be a ramp up time. Here's the problem with that. These are also the women who have enough money in the bank, or husbands are wealthy enough that when the country is off course, they have enough resources to self-correct. And that's the big problem. When we talk about Karens for Kamala, white dudes for Kamala, left-handed chickens for Kamala, when you break down all of these little coalitions, what you find is a small pocket of people who have a lot to gain from her being elected, who are influencing people around them. So what we have done, as individualistic as Republicans are, we have started our own coalitions. We have said, okay, well, we can build bridges. We're good at building. Let's do the same thing. Let's talk to our community. So we do at Black Conservative Federation, we do cookouts, something that speaks to our culture. We have a DJ, we do some line dancing, we eat, we have some ginger ale, we do our thing, and we don't talk politics. We just show up and we let them ask us questions. We let them ask us why. And we don't argue. I mean, we can disagree without being disagreeable, but I would be hard pressed to find one person, and I think we've had maybe 20 or 30 of these cookouts, one person who would say that they're better off today than they were 4 years ago.
It's not
I went to the grocery store today because, I'm a fruit person. I bought a watermelon. I bought some laundry pods and a pound of cherries and spent almost $90.
Yeah, I'm not.
That's outrageous. And not even it was at Food Line. It wasn't like I was shopping at Whole Foods, So there is a problem in our country that this culture just can't correct. It's okay and cool to want to see your culture reflected in politics and that kind of thing. But first, let's just be really good Americans. Let's get the country straight. And then say,
Yeah,
you know.
get our country straight. Let's get the inner city of African Americans on another path to prosperity and education and crime and guns and gangs. And I don't understand where all of this all of a sudden is coming back from. But once Donald Trump wins, we're going to have to tackle all of the bad, horrible things that the Biden administration has done to us. And God help us all if we end up with Kamala Harris.
Well, ladies, on that, I am just thrilled that you took the time to spend some time with me. We got a lot more to say, but we're going to have to do it in another podcast because I'm having way too much fun here, and I'm not supposed to be recording myself having fun. So with that said, Ms. Reyes,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
thank you for your time. Thank you for your friendship. And I pray that you will do this again with me very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You guys take
for
care
having
now.
me. Yes.
All right.
Well, that's about it for now. This has been the Loyal Opposition Podcast, produced in association with Fallback Productions and other podcasters. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to get your copy of my book, Black Values Matter, available as an ebook on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. And also, it's okay to disagree, but if we want our country to prosper, we must insist on unity, transparency, and civility from ourselves and our fellow citizens. Thanks for listening to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. See you next week.